uh, when I watch cooking shows, it doesn't mean that I know how to cook. Simply listening to our speakers share about their knowledge on these topics doesn't mean anything unless we apply what we learn from them, right? James 1:22 tells us that we should not merely listen to the word and so deceive ourselves. We must do what it says. Um, what James is trying to tell, what the Bible is trying to tell us here is that when we only listen but do not apply it, we are only deceiving ourselves. Parang niloloko lang natin yung sarili natin. Parang ako and cooking, di ba? Niloloko ko lang yung sarili ko, hindi naman talaga ako marunong magluto. So today, Aaron and I prepared some activities that will hopefully get us started with applying what we learned in the past few weeks, specifically with our Christianity series. Now, don't worry if you missed any of our sessions or if it's your first time to join us here in Joy Fellowship today. This will be a group activity naman, so you'll be helping each other. And to refresh everyone's memories, because I'm sure we all need a refresher, I'll give a recap naman right now. Okay. So our first activity for the Christianity series was Christianity versus Science. During that day, we had Mr. Miguel Cano who shared with us or shed some light on how science doesn't really contradict with God. He shared with us that for Earth to have life, precise things need to happen or there needs to be precise occurrences. And when we look at the world, for example, the planets, the animals, the plants, and everything that is in the world, it is very difficult to conclude that all of this happened by chance. It makes more sense to conclude that it was created by someone, by God, because all of these precise events would not have happened all by chance. And he also shared that science helps us see that God has been mindful of us even before he created the universe. So because of this, we can give thanks for how God has created us and how he created the world just the way it is. Lastly, he reminded us that we can actually use science as a tool to share the gospel. Okay. The next in our series is Christianity versus other religions. On this topic, Pastor Harold Uy gave us an overview on some major world religions such as Christianity and Catholicism, Islam and Buddhism. And he also highlighted what makes the Christian faith unique, namely, uh, yung being Christ-centric and that our biblical faith and practice. So, as Christians, we believe that the Bible is the sole authority in matters of faith and practice. And everything we think, say, or do reflects the perfect life of Jesus. And Jesus is our role model, or he modeled the Christian life that we ought to live by. We also believe that salvation is by grace. We are sinners saved by God's grace and mercy through faith, not of works, but good works is a result or a byproduct of us following Jesus. And lastly, we believe in the resurrection of Jesus. It proves the superior power of God over sin and death. So these are the things that we learned from the Christianity versus other religions. Next, we had Pastor Janet Yu Chua share to us about Christianity and love or tips on how we can show love to others. She said that we can show love to others by listening to them, giving full attention and empathizing. We can help them by offering tangible help. We can also show love by confronting in love. This doesn't mean na makikipag-away tayo, but rather to resolve issues or concerns we may have with people. And she recommended using the sandwich method whenever we would do this. So the sandwich method is firstly, you say something positive, and then you state what is your constructive feedback or what's your what is the sort of negative thing that you want to say. And when you say that, don't say, this is you were I appreciate you for this and this, but Instead of using but, she encourages us to use and. Kasi when we use but, parang we're negating every good thing that we said earlier. So she recommends using and when we say the negative. Tapos we end on a positive note. So that's the sandwich method. And then we can also love others by forgiving others and, of course, by asking for their forgiveness. She shared the 5 languages of forgiveness as well, how we can ask for forgiveness. And lastly, she shared that we can show love by setting boundaries. Setting boundaries doesn't mean that we will shut out everybody, but rather we will build doors or choose who or when. We just build our own boundaries, right? And syempre, fresh from last week, Christianity and social media, Zidzi shared with us and challenged us to use social media in the name of Jesus by click. So what is click? You check up on your friends, you like and support people, you impart kind and encouraging words, then we create content for the Lord and keep people in our prayers. So we click. Okay, so that's a summary or a quick recap of what we talked about in the past 4 weeks in our Christianity series. Especially those who missed any of our sessions. Now, if you want to listen or know more about any of these topics, feel free to visit our YouTube channel, SSP Joy Online, so you can go back and watch the recordings of these lessons or maybe later, no? Pwede kayong mag-skip to the videos and if you wanna remember something. All right? So, to summarize lang rin, to wrap this up, ayan, I hope that, yun nga, you enjoyed putting some theories into practice. So, yan yung tip natin for the day, to put theories into practice. And let's read this Bible verse. It's from Matthew 7:24-27. It says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, and the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundations on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine," that's Jesus speaking, does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a crash. Okay, so this passage is taken from part of Jesus' teachings called Sermon on the Mount. And I would encourage you all to read the whole sermon on your own time. No? And today we're just focusing on this bit. And here Jesus is telling us that anyone who hears his words and puts them into practice is wise, because it's like building your house on a strong foundation and it will not be easily destroyed. And when we put our God's teachings into practice in our lives, when we actually do it and when we obey it, we are building a strong foundation for ourselves, and we will not be easily swayed or tempted by the world. On the other hand, if we do not put into practice the teachings of Jesus and merely hearing his words lang, then it is considered foolish. It is like building a house on sand wherein there's no strong foundation and it can be easily destroyed. Yun nga, when we merely hear God's teachings but do not do it, it is useless and foolish, because what's the use of hearing something and then you do not apply it, right? It does nothing or it changes nothing. So let me ask you a question. What kind of man do you want to be? Will you choose to be a wise man or a foolish man? The decision is up to you. So, ayun, thank you for your time today.